many people opt to leave Nigeria for greener pastures and then return to afford others the same opportunity. In fact, most graduates of the prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT in Boston, have their choice of six-figure salary jobs after graduation. But Obinna Ukwuani chose a different path. In 2015, he decided to move to Nigeria to pursue entrepreneurial and social impact ambitions. As founder and CEO of Maker Academy Nigeria, a STEM secondary school campus project, the co-founder and CEO of NESA by Makers, a software development training school and studio, the founder and CEO of Brook Oil Mills, and the founder of Exposure Robotics Academy, or XRA, a critically successful capacity building program targeted at West African secondary school students. Now, XRA ran between 2012 and 2014. It educated over 100 boys and girls, received significant funding from companies like Shell Oil, and is the subject of the globally award-winning documentary film, Narrabita. Suffice it to say, Obinna Ukwuani is a social entrepreneur who's committed to creating and building capacity in Africa. Welcome to the show, Obinna.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yourself?
I mean, you're doing great things is the answer to that question.
Thank you.
Now, you have to tell me how this journey started. I can't imagine that when you were in secondary school, you thought to yourself, I want to be the owner of a secondary school. How did it begin for you?
Well, I wasn't born here. I was born and raised in the States. But when I was much younger, I think 11 or 12, my parents sent me to Nigeria for 2 years of boarding school. And it was during that time that I formed a Nigerian identity, and therefore felt a sense of responsibility, and felt like I had to play a role in helping Nigeria get to where I think it should be. So I came back to the States after secondary school, did high school, did well, went to MIT, got my degree. And during that period, I visited Nigeria and was able to observe a gap between me and my peers who I had schooled with in Nigeria, and having grown up with them essentially, and we were all equals, young boys and girls, just doing our thing. To come back and realize that as a result of the institutions they had no option but to pass through. Right. There was now no chance that they would ever be able to really compete with me on the same level. But at some point in time, we were the same. So we had the same potential.
Yes.
But for unfortunate reasons, they weren't able to realize that potential. And it was in that moment that I decided that I want to play my own small part in helping to make sure that Nigerians can realize their potential.
Wow. Now, you lived in the United States and came back to Nigeria, as you said. What exactly about it, about living there, or about home, inspired you to say, you know what, I want to do something for my country?
I can't say it was anything in particular. I mean, there's nothing particularly, well, anyway. Nothing in particular. I think what it is I have a strong sense of where home is, and that happens to be Nigeria, right? No matter how far you go, whether you decide to set up shop in the US or in Europe or Australia or wherever, your name is going to be, or my name is going to be Obinna.
Yes,
right?
Which is a very Nigerian name.
Very Nigerian name. So I can't run away from my roots,
yeah.
Right? And Nigeria, I mean, we have so many challenges, and our global reputation suffers, and I think we would be fooling ourselves to think that you can escape that, because by your name alone you're associated. So why not be or work to be part of the solution?
Absolutely.
And perhaps make a good, decent living for yourself in the process.
At the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Who says no to money?
A few people.
Now, what are some of the challenges that you faced in moving back home? Because a lot of repats, they get a bit of a culture shock, even though it is their home country. Tell me about some of your challenges. Yeah,
I mean, the values are very different. The way you make friends and keep friends, totally different here. Totally different, right? The way you make mentors and keep mentors, totally different. The way you associate with elders, totally different.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's a lot of trial and error. You get yelled at by an older person because you didn't observe certain, customs.
Yes.
Yeah. So that happened a few times. You lose friends because you don't meet expectations. But these things happen, and you learn. So I think that was probably the biggest, just figuring out the social cues.
Absolutely. Now, you led 3 funded ventures in education and agriculture. Tell me about those.
So the first is is the original project that I came back for in 2015, which is the Makers Academy campus project. So that's what I raised the money for initially. Brought in some architects in 2016. So we have a nice campus master plan. And some relationships with state governments around Nigeria in an effort to get land to actually build a school. So it's an ongoing project, lots of fundraising, some political lobbying involved as well. Kind of understanding the nature of that type of capital project in Nigeria led me to want to divest or to kind of diversify, so that there were other ways that my investors or people who are watching can see traction, and also that I can have a more immediate impact on people. That's where NESA, which is the software development training space and workshop that we have in Yaba, came about. It's a 3-month program. We take people who had little or no previous exposure to software development, and in 3 months we turn them into fledgling engineers who can be hired.
In 3 months?
In 3 months, yeah.
What?
Yeah. Obviously, there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
But at that point, you should know enough to be able to get on a job and contribute, and then teach yourself what else you need to know. So you'll leave with a portfolio of relevant projects that you would have done during your time there. And of course, the agriculture, I think, I just felt like it was like money on the floor. I mean, we might be the largest country in Africa, but we're still very poor. We might have oil money, but we're still very poor, right? I mean, 90% of our population is poor.
Yes.
Live
one way or another. $1 a day?
Yeah, so I think if you really want to start a business that is guaranteed to succeed, you want to sell something that is cheap enough and I guess demanded by literally everybody from the bottom all the way to the top.
Yeah.
And food falls in that category, and agriculture is all about food. So that's, I thought about it quite a bit after spending a year here, and I thought, okay, if I wake up one day, 5 years have elapsed, and I'm still here, what is the one thing that I would regret not doing? And I think having an agriculture-focused company was one of them. So I went ahead and I did it.
Okay. Yeah. Now, that sounds very time-intensive, the 3 of them individually.
Yeah.
How do you manage to split your time and balance yourself between the 3 projects?
Yeah, I mean, the projects are also in different locations. The Makers Academy campus project is being promoted in the Southeast, and my factory is also in the Southeast. Right. And as it expands, it'll continue to be in the Southeast while we have operations in Lagos on the NESA side. I think just having a great team is key. Having loyal teammates who believe in the vision, who perhaps aren't too concerned with the monetary rewards that they can get today, but they see what we're trying to build for the future. Right. And once you have that, everybody's incentives are aligned, and I'm able to just wake up early in the morning, make my calls to the Southeast, ask my project managers, how's it going? If I need to fly down to Enugu, I do. I'm there quite often. And here in Lagos is the same thing. Just have a great team. That's amazing. Yeah, we actually have a little clip of your Robotics Academy. Okay. Should we take a look? Yeah, let's do that. All righty.
Exposure Robotics League is a 5-week summer program to introduce Nigerian children to robotics and SAT.
Beyond it being about robotics, it's just about exposing kids to things that are new to them. And also I think it's more about the vision, making kids realize you can do whatever you want to do after this. Because we also talk about college applications and options when you graduate from SS3. I think it's just providing kids with a dream and enabling them to look for more options than what they already have in front of them.
Honestly, before I came to the program, I know very, very little about robotics. In fact, to be very honest, the much I know about it is from the one we watch in movies.
You have to use while loops, you have to use if statements, you have to think like a programmer, you have to be able to break up these different chores into smaller.
Wow, look at them. Now, off camera, we were talking about NESA and the fact that you can actually gain the experience of a university competent engineer in the 3 months that you would be in your program.
Yes.
This is amazing.
I mean, I think the precise way to describe my program is that it introduces you.
Right.
It's a 12-month intensive crash course. So you'll know the basics. You'll understand like computational thinking, programming logic, and then you would have had exposure to the tools that they use in the industry.
Right.
And you would have had experience building things with those tools and those various languages. And that's really what you need to get in. Now, when you get into the job, it's not going to be easy, but you have what you need to start.
Absolutely.
From that point, it's...
And it's always easier to immerse yourself whilst learning as opposed to just, taking the practical and never really applying it, or rather the theory, and never applying it in practice.
Correct. So, I mean, right now, we're in our first cohort, we just started, but we have students who study telecoms. We have students who study computer science in Nigerian universities as well. And when you teach them, you realize that they can quickly grasp the theory, right? But they've never actually practiced.
Exactly.
So they're like the perfect student, right? We can just get straight into applying what they learned in school. I only wish that before they had left school, they would have gotten this practical experience. That would have made them a much more productive citizen, and the country would be better off for it. But we all know these problems.
But why don't you then perhaps look at making your program, maybe working with the government to make it compulsory for after these people learn in school to then attend your course?
Yeah, I mean,
is that a possibility?
Anything is possible if you're willing to put in the work.
Is it a probability, I should ask?
Is it a probability? I would say the probability is quite low.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only because working with government anywhere is challenging. That's kind of why I appreciate education enterprise, because my job as the business leader is to put out a product that is of high quality with good guarantees, that's at the right price and in the right format that people want to buy it, right? And then everything else kind of takes care of itself. So my interaction is with my customer.
Right.
I'm not dealing with a government agency.
Straight B2C.
Exactly.
No time for anything else.
Correct. And we make our impact, we build capacity, and we are able to run an economically sustainable organization.
Fantastic. So. Now, I want to talk about one of your other projects, the STEM School by Makers Academy. Tell me about that, because that sounded so inspirational when I heard about it. It's Nigeria's very first STEM school.
Yeah. First school of its kind, offering the curriculum in the way. Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, it's still largely conceptual. I mean, we've raised money around it. We've done a lot of work, spent a lot of money, done a lot of government lobbying. Our next step now is to wrap up our land acquisition process. So we're talking to a few state governments. That's been the biggest challenge so far, and then we'll move into our second round of financing. It's a big project. It's ambitious. I mean, it could take years to accomplish it, which is why we're doing NESA, so we can do something that can start small and grow to be big.
Okay, and in the intro, I was talking about the fact that you were featured you're one of the only schools featured. Was it called Niger Beta?
Yes.
Should we take a look at it?
Let's do that.
The Exposure Robotics Week is a movement of students at MIT back to Nigeria to expose young people in Nigeria to be passionate about technology. The idea is to teach the kids for 5 weeks, and then at the end of 5 weeks, you test them by giving them a grand challenge to design a robot for, and of course, surmount ultimately.
The team who was most prepared for the final challenge will win the tournament. 3, 2, 1. Once I'm done with secondary school, I'm running away. And I can't guarantee I'll come back to Nigeria.
That looks amazing. What was that experience like for you being featured in Niger Beta?
It was a great privilege, actually, and obviously did a lot for the work that we do. Brought a lot of attention, helped us gain some more support, so it was amazing. And I mean, that program, that was my first foray into education enterprise, massively successful, and I mean, the most rewarding bit is that the students that we were able to work with, I mean, we have them in schools around the world, literally, studying STEM. Like 95% of all our graduates went on to study something in STEM.
Wow.
So we have students who got scholarships to STEM schools like Drexel and have done internships at places like Google, right? And they will all, I mean, at least once or twice a year, they'll come together and commemorate their opportunity to participate in the Exposure Robotics Academy. So for years to come, they will continuously refer back to their experience at our program, and it's incredibly rewarding. Yeah.
I mean, a question that I normally ask some of my guests that come on the show is, what sort of impact would you like to leave in your Africa? But I don't think that's a question that applies to you. You are an impactful person.
Thank you.
What drives you? When did you wake up with this gusto to say, I'm going to change the world, starting with my country?
I wish, I wish I could answer that question. I just think some people have a calling, right? And I think I was lucky enough to discover it young, and to also experience the reward of having that kind of impact on people.
Yeah.
So now that I've seen the smiles on my students' faces, I've been able to watch them over 3-4 years and see the progression. So I know for sure that today, if I invest 5 weeks of high quality educational content into a student in Nigeria, that will have a transformational impact on their life. They'll never be the same again. I mean, their life, which would have been headed in this direction, now is in that direction.
Yeah.
And to know that I can do that, like I have the ability, right? Like, why not? It's like having a superpower to like change someone, right?
What would your superpower, your superhero name be?
I wish you asked me that before I came on the show. I'll think about it.
Think about it and get back to me. Now, I want to briefly touch on your one of your last projects, Brook Oil Mills. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so that's my first foray into agricultural processing. I hope to do a lot more in this sector. Right now we're processing palm kernel and making crude palm kernel oil and selling it. So we have a 40 metric ton factory in Enugu. Yeah, 40 metric ton per week factory in Enugu. That we're hoping to expand very quickly. So.
Amazing. So because you're doing so much, and it's almost, we can't really contain it in the show, there's that much that you're up to. For those of our viewers that want to keep up to date with you and find out exactly what you're doing, see how they can get involved in Makers Academy or the XRA program, how can they do that?
So they can follow us on Twitter at NESA by Makers, NESA by Makers, Instagram and Twitter. They can follow me personally on Twitter or Instagram, OUKW, or Ukwuani, at Ukwuani on both Twitter and Instagram. They can shoot me an email at hello@makers.ng or visit our website at www.nesa.makers.ng.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
I'm so impressed. I'm blown away.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, thank you for joining us and giving us a brief history on what it is you do. But this is not the last that we're seeing of you, because you'll be joining us for a very special edition, politically charged edition of Girl Talk.
Okay.
Are you ready?
All right, let's do it.
Can you handle the heat?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. That is all from Obinna Ukwuani.